Hey there, we're going to have a look at the F250 wiring harness and sort of make a point of all its locations. And let's have a look. Okay, so first item in the harness, PCM connector. Moves along in this direction to the second item in the harness, which is right here. And that would be the passenger side ABS sensor. Moving up the harness a couple inches, we have the firewall ground. Runs over to here. Moving up, branches off into this T, and then further into two more. And I don't know what these are, but I'm assuming this is bank A and this is bank B, or vice versa. All of this is battery stuff. Moving up the cable and harness across to here. This one here is basically positive feed from the battery, or from the switch here, going through a fuse link and then running into this harness, and then it continues all the way across. Skip this connector for now, but it comes across and then gets over to this loop back connector, which is just looks like a couple of wires that basically are crossed in the circuit, probably for a particular tune or something. Then we have the next wire, be the windshield wiper mechanism. It comes back up through to here, and then coming down we got these two wires coming out. The first one, power steering sensor, and the other one appears to be not the passenger side ABS, but it's a wire that's just hanging below the firewall there, with two wires in it, a green and a black, I think, and nothing hooked to it, so we don't know what that one does. Next thing that happens, we come down the connector into the firewall plugs. A couple other sensors on the firewall here. The main fuse box, which is in here. Snake comes around, branches out into these group of sensors. There's like transmission tune, some other sensor here. This comes off the bottom of the air bucket. Cable continues over. Don't know if you can see here. Bridges into three connectors, and those three connectors go back towards the CNG equipment, and the snake continues again. Looks like there may be something that tees off there in the cable for lighting and stuff, and the cable comes along here, splits again into here, continues along, and this would be the crash sensor. Continues along under here into the firewall again, and then here we have more lighting stuff, and then the final plug in the system, which is the air conditioning shut-off switch. That's the power supply for the window washer tank, and then there's another ground down here, and then the lights go into that harness as well. So I guess on this side there's a split in the harness here somewhere that splits off into the lights, but because I don't have this tank out, I can't really see what's inside there. So that's an assumption at this point, but I don't see any other major wiring harness coming over. So essentially this whole harness makes a big U around the outside of the engine compartment, ending at this last connector, the air conditioning cutoff switch. There appears to be three other harnesses. The battery harness, which comes from the alternator, battery, and the starter, and then buses in through the switch into the fusible links, which one goes to the alternator, one goes, like I said, into the wiring snake. The other two snakes, I'm assuming, are left and right banks of the engine for fuel injection, so on and so forth. Most of that being triggered from the PCM over here. So that's the basics of the Ford F250 wiring system. As you can see, engine's getting torn down pretty good. really we're just waiting on some tools to get the this front piece out. So we got 12 spot welds on each side that we have to drill out, and then this whole piece is going to lift out, and then we can pull the rads out. As I've determined, there is no air conditioning compressor, and that's why the previous owner had a complaint that he couldn't get the air conditioning working at any point. And the reason being is way down at the bottom of the engine there is the air compressor, and there isn't one. So it had been removed, and the rest of the system here is intact but has been opened, so it's all contaminated. So putting in a new air conditioning compressor involves also putting in a new valve and a new dryer at the very least, and then pressurizing the system again, and we should have air conditioning. Simplifies my job because I don't have to depressurize to get the parts out, because there's no pressure in the system, so I can just pull it all apart and take it out. That won't happen, of course, until I said we get this guy off. So there we have it. Hey, it's Kevin here again, working on the Ford F250. Today the plan is to get the brake system out and get it on the bench so we can clean it up, flush it, and check all the seals and make sure it all is good. I've soaked all the connections down with transmission fluid to see if we can get all the rust out and get them a bit looser. So anyway, I'll give you a look at what we got. So I'll get in here. See, there's the back of the system. Try and zoom in here a bit as best we can. So I'm going to try and map this a little better in case I have to come back to it. So there is a series of what appears to be 5 lines going into the device, sort of in a semicircular pattern above the cylinder. So starting with number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Actually, port 1 goes to the front of the power steering pump. Port number 2 goes to the driver's side brake caliper. Port number 3, passenger side brake caliper. And this is, of course, on the front of the truck. Port number 4 goes to the rear drums. Port number 5 goes to the rear of the power steering pump. Nothing else really remarkable. Looks like a few bolts, and the whole assembly will come out. There's actually 2 electrical connectors that feed into the top here from the harness. That's what we got. Hey, we're back at the driver's side wheel hub area again, and just pointing out a couple other things on the electrical that are questions at this point. One being this wire that comes down from the harness into the footwell here, and black and a green, nothing connected to it. So I don't know. First I thought it was the ABS sensor, but we have an ABS sensor on this one already wired into the harness up here. So don't know what this is. This wiring harness here contains all the CNG harnesses for the CompuValve equipment that's installed in the back of the frame. So hey guys, Kevin again, down at the shop, late. Must be 5 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, I succeeded in getting the brake modulator out and got it all cleaned up. So I'll show you what's going on. So this is the mount, sandblasted, and I'm putting some leveling clears in the center there. It's pretty pitted, so when that actually looks kind of white right now, but when it dries, it will actually dry black. And one more coat in there, and that'll level it out nice. And she's done. The outside is already looking pretty good. calipers from the other day. Anyway, there she is, all cleaned up. So you got mounting rings, the isolation rubbers that go with them, that actually go in 3 holes in the mount. The 5 manifold bolts in order the way they go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For some reason, the third one has a higher flange on it than this one. And the way it works out is number 1, which is actually, I broke the line off on the actual nut. But this is number 1, which is fed from the front of the master cylinder. Number 2, which goes to the front driver's side. Number 3, passenger side, and rear brakes. So it's kind of weird, like, and they all seem to have different threads, presumably so you can't fuck them up. And then, of course, the unit itself, the lights are substantial. Turn it around, see there's a motor on the back, and I cleaned it up pretty nice, painted it and everything. So anyway, that's my little project for tonight.